Good.
Councillors and community, welcome to the extraordinary meeting of Council, Wednesday 12th of November 2025. A reminder that this meeting is being webcast, and for those in attendance that you should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Also a reminder to the gallery that the use of a recording device is a breach of the Code of Meeting Practice, and anyone contravening or attempting to contravene will be expelled from the meeting. Councillors, as we begin this meeting, I'll need to have someone move and second bringing Councillor Carter into the meeting remotely, please. So move Councillor Cherry and all those in favour? That's unanimous. Welcome, Councillor Carter. Councillors, if you could now stand with me as we acknowledge country and say the prayer. Yass Valley Council recognises the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land, water and sky. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present and future emerging leaders. We extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. Now the prayer. Please join me in the prayer or take this moment to reflect. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the true welfare of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Amen. Please be seated. Councillors, we have no apologies. Do we have any declaration of pecuniary interests or special disclosures?
Other than all being great.
And under the Act, we are all okay on that. Okay. Councillors, we have a report before us on the community engagement on special rate variation modelling. Councillors, there is a recommendation before you in the business paper, or you may choose to move an alternative wording. Councillors, do you have a motion?
For the purpose of debate, I'm happy to move the motion. However, I would like to listen to the debate first, if I may second.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Do we have a seconder for the motion that's in the business paper?
For the purpose of the debate, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Butler, you have the floor.
I relinquish my rights to that right now.
Okay. Councillor Flannery.
I've given this considerable thought for at least 12 months since before I stood for election, and many people came up to me who I think voted for me and said, don't raise the rates. And I was thinking, okay, so now what we're debating is around those rates. And I am respectful of the information that's gone in and the rationale behind it. I just can't support a rate rise at this moment when we've done a lot of changes and we haven't seen how those changes are going to play out. When I think we all recognise that there are inefficiencies, and that's not labelling it a person or in a particular area. It's just saying that what we have done as the Yass Council has commissioned a report around the special rate variation to the exclusion of almost everything else. And it's a bit of a blanket way to go about it. So we haven't done any dives into what would this mean. It says in the report that we would cut services. What are they? It says that we have state benchmarks. Well, that's great. The state hasn't come funding to us. It refers to reports around that there's been money reallocated from state funds to Yass. It doesn't say what it is, how much, the quantum. So I really tried to read the report with an open mind and think to myself, what is the one factor here that says to me, we need the money right now? What's the burning issue? And we look and say, yes, there's $3.2 million in deficit, but I can't actually see any other solution proposed than the one to increase rates. And I think we've all sworn an oath, well, I know that we've all sworn an oath to serve the people. And over the 50, whatever, maybe more than that, calls that I've had and people that I've seen have said, do not do this now. Can we look at some alternative options? And that's what I would like the council to consider. What are those alternative options? Do we have partnerships with other groups? Are there ways that we can deliver services that are more efficient? I just strongly do not feel that this community can cope with the rate increase. I feel there's a number of inaccuracies in the report, there are inaccuracies in other modelling that we've had, and I'm just not at all comfortable supporting a report that only looks at one option, doesn't have the multitude of options that we should try.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
I hope you could hear that. Sorry, I should have used the outside one voice.
Councillors, given that we're already consuming internally restricted funds and there is a precipice ahead of us, I think it might be wise for us to now go to our executive to actually answer some of those questions, because I don't think Councillor Flannery is alone in thinking, why now? So let's go to our executive and actually hear about the why now, and also, if not now, what happens.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The burning issue is our unrestricted cash. By 27-28, we will have $22 million negative unrestricted cash balance. So we have a number of restricted and internally restricted funds. So our externally restricted funds are legislated, so water, sewer, waste. We can't use those for general fund activities. They have to remain in those categories. So you can't use money that's been allocated or been paid for water onto roads, for example. That's a legislative requirement in local government New South Wales. We then have internally restricted funds such as planting fleet, to make sure that we are updating our planting fleet in appropriate accordance to its usage and its age. In the past, we have let that go and we have that well is dry. So we are now at the end of we've got an ageing fleet and council has been traditionally, or in the last few years, buying second-hand fleet, which has not been fit for purpose in a lot of ways. We have a number of other restricted reserves which we are using to be able to deliver council services. Once those internally restricted reserves, so that's like having separate accounts for your household funds, so once they are done, we then will need to borrow money to be able to do council's basic operations. In terms of if we don't have this, we don't apply and successful for the SRV, what that means is a significant cut to what we call our livability services. So in terms of livability services, so you wouldn't you wouldn't unfund your infrastructure, because that carries a huge amount of liability for council. So you need to try and maintain the infrastructure as best we can, but our livability services are things like pools, libraries, parks, sport fields. They are the services that will have to wear the brunt of us not having sufficient cash flow. Director of Corporate Services or CFO, would you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, CEO. So really, as the CEO has explained, that our unrestricted funds become very negative. Okay, so we can't. We're borrowing from other areas of the business, which we shouldn't. If we look at the last long-term financial plan that we did, and I demonstrated to council, on average is a $5 million deficit consolidated for the organisation. So, we've got a structural revenue issue, and we've been looking at our expenditure, and we have made some improvements there. But we need to turn our deficits into a surplus, and then enable us to have sufficient unrestricted cash for us to be able to respond to a natural disaster, or if we need to spend more money on roads that we haven't already allocated, council can make those decisions to do that.
Yeah. Sorry, CFO. So I would also add that within the SRV modelling, is already a $2.8 million saving over 4 years that us as council staff have to find. That's $700,000 a year. So we are committed to undertaking that work. So that SRV modelling assumes $2.8 million efficiency savings and real tangible savings are achieved. We've also done deep dives into our financial management as well as improved asset management, as can clearly be shown through our newly adopted financial statements for 24-25. We've done a huge amount of work in that. Councillors have also done some heavy lifting as well with the already discontinuing stage 2 of Crago Mill. That in itself has saved 1.5 on an estimate of $1.5 million per year recovery. And we've also doing additional work such as we've put in our development application modification for Discovery Drive, we've implemented a new grant management process, we have done some significant work to do the analysis on our cost attribution, so making sure our general fund is not propping up our water, our sewer, our waste, and make sure that we're charging appropriately in that area. We are looking at a whole range of land sale potential, but I will say in terms of land sales, they are one-offs. Once it's sold, and that doesn't actually help your day-to-day running expenditure or fix your running operating deficit in the long term. So we need to make sure that we fix that. And then of course, as one of the last measures is we're looking at the SRV. So there's a lot more work to come. In August, Council adopted the Financial Sustainability Roadmap. You will receive a report on that progress, which has been substantial in 3 months of it being implemented, and the work that we've done there. So we are doing a lot, but even with all of those, so that $2.8 million is the direct calculation of the estimate that we've been able to attribute to the Financial Sustainability Roadmap. So for us to be able to implement that, that should receive $2.8 million over the 4 years, and that is already taken into consideration in order to keep the rate, special rate variation as low as we could possibly get it. It is also, I'd also say 76% of councils out of 128 in New South Wales have gone for an SRV since 2011. What we're dealing with is a structural issue. 40% of those who have been successful have gone more than once for a special rate variation. What that means is our rate pegging doesn't necessarily keep up with the cost of inflation or the cost of goods and services as a whole. We are, this is becoming, on average, councils are going for a special rate variation once every 10 years in order to bridge that gap. It's an unfortunate situation, but it is unfortunately local government for New South Wales. The latest cost shifting report done by Local Government New South Wales Association is showing that $500 on the average rates is from cost shifting from other levels of government. So that's where more and more from state and federal governments have been shifted onto local government to deliver their services and to do their activities. For large rural councils like ours, it's actually more. It's more around like $120 per rate notice per annum. So we're seeing more and more councils becoming more and more responsible for other levels of government as well.
Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Ms. Flannery. So through you, Madam Mayor, and look, anyone can ask questions. I'm following up. These are follow-up questions. Sorry, the sun's already moving. So I won't get a halo here. I'll probably get horns or something like that.
Please move into your
So just, you know, if you're growing up and mum and dad said, no more money, live within your means, I just want to know what happens. Like, of course 76% of councils apply for special rates because it's a go-to. If you didn't, you'd be, you know, we're told, test all the levers, it's a go-to. But if we wanted to be the most efficient council and say, no, actually, I represent a community that's prepared to pitch in. You know, earlier, Wilma, she gives up 2 or 3 days a week. Like, there's a whole range of people that help out. So if mum and dad said no to the rate variation, you can say there's cost shifting. I want to know specifically what did Yass Council have to pick up the pieces for that the state government has said you do and we've had to fund an extra person. Because all these reports seem to have the same mindset in local government that says, just push it onto the ratepayers, push it onto people that you think can afford it and make a report up that you think people can afford it. And I don't think they can. And I just really want us to tighten our belts, get the community to stop, using disposable cups and all that crap, to stop our waste being so big, and see how we as a community can come together, instead of wasting time on a consultation about whether people like it or not. Of course they're not going to like this. And think about what can we do as a council, as a community, to actually live within our means. And, I can read a million reports, but I just want to see how we can try to at least settle the dust for a year and go, is it that amount? Have we've tried all these things, what is the outcome of that? And that's where I stand.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I'd just like to give the Executive the opportunity to the comment that you made about make up a report, because a lot of work has gone into this. So I'd just like to give them the opportunity to
it was a
respond.
flippant comment. I was meaning develop a report, but I do feel that the reports here all come with the assumption, as they were asked to do, like the consultants have done their job. It says, when you read their background, they've helped a lot of councils with special rate variations. Like, that's what they're special at, amongst other things. They're helping local government. So they've been asked to write a report, they've done a good job, the report is good, but to me it's pretty much butter over the top. It's not saying specifically what Yass Council, what did we have to do in terms of the cost shifting from state in our area alone. If you talk about it as a farming community, the state government has made a whole bureaucracy in terms of how you fight fires. And what have we done? We've made it really, really expensive in terms of fire management for farmers particularly. And so I just really feel that the report it answers what it was always going to answer. We need a special rate variation, and how much, what is the quantum, rather than are there other mechanisms than a special rate variation? If mum and dad and big brother said no, what are we going to do?
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I'll just give the opportunity for the Executive to respond to some of the comments that you've made, and then we'll go to another councillor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the Mayor is absolutely correct. It is a huge body of work that has been done by the consultants, but to do that, it requires a huge amount of work by the council staff. So I wanted to acknowledge the work that actually has gone into this, and it's based on the data that we have, which is the best data available. In terms of, we are not sitting on our hands. This is not the position that I would like to be in as 6 months into the role. And we have made significant changes and inroads since I've been here, and even before I started, the Executive have done that. $2.8 million, that's us trying to, looking at things, doing things differently, being different, and it is not easy. The low-hanging fruit has been plucked. So we are now on the hard roads. So the roads have now deteriorated to a point where there's no easy fix. Our assets have at a point where there's no easy fix, and there is no quick wins here. This is hard work that we are doing. In terms of what would we do? We will still find that we will still go after that $2.8 million. We will still do all the efficiencies that we want to do, or that we need to do. But services will need to be cut, and the report highlights that it's about 13%, which is significant. It's around about 3.2,
3.5 million.
correct, so $3.5 million a year, in addition to the $2.8 million that we need to find. So things 4.2 in total. So things will need to change here. What I would also say is, while the consultants have done lots of modelling for councils, because it is a system that we're working in. I think the important thing to note is this is a lot different to the modelling that they have done for other councils that I have seen. So in terms of, ours is about sustainable assets. There's other councils that are looking at prosperity and growth, or to be able to fund specific projects. Ours is around, our modelling was done to look at what would it take for our council to be financially sustainable and to achieve sustainable assets. that is Yass Valley specific. And to do that, they start off and they look at where we sit and how we are operating, and it shows that we have we will run out of cash, or we have the ability to, as well as operating deficits year on year. And in addition to that, deteriorating assets which are further declining. To fix that, they say, well, how do we get up? What does it look like to get up to the operating ratio set by the Office of Local Government in New South Wales? And that's where the 40% come from. But we had to work with the consultants to say, hey, we think we can do better, we will do better, we will find $2.8 million over 4 years, we will fix our financial system, we will make sure that we are a lean operating system that is using the technology that's available to us. And councillors have seen and will see further some more technology that we're trying to implement. So as the community grows, we're trying to hold council staffing numbers to be the same and leverage the technology that we have available. But I hope that answers Councillor Flannery's questions in terms of, in terms of what will happen. And that 13% has to come down to our livability general funded services. And they're the things that we take pride in here at Yass Valley Council. And Yass Valley as a community, we know that our community are highly involved in sport. That is what we do as a rural community. That's where our kids play, that's where we play. We know that people love our parks and our footpaths and so forth, and we know we need to do better, have better, as Mr. Burgess said from the Business Chamber, we need better roads. That is impacting not just our tourism, but it's also impacting our economy for our farmers to be able to get to where they need to be as part of their business. That is what this special rate variation is dealing with specifically for Yass Valley Council.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess.
My first.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. No one wants this rate variation. I don't want it. It's going to cost me $1,800 a year. But we've been through poor management before we got Galen and the team on board, and they've screwed us. So what we have to do is get this money, but we need to make sure everything's done efficiently and we manage it properly. We can't just piss it up the wall. It's got to be done right.
It's been done before.
Councillor Rothwell, I'll just remind you not to
Yeah.
engage with the
I'm sorry.
gallery, that's okay.
But we do need to make sure it is done properly. That's my say.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Councillor Chow.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I think the comments made by Councillor Flannery are very pertinent. Obviously, Councillor Rothwell's also got a very deep place of sentiment for this particular topic. And the comment raised by Councillor Butler is to enable, and I concur, that we need to enable discussion between the 9 voting members in this room. In order to do so, I move that we move into a committee of the whole in order to have that discussion amongst the elected body.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry, and do I have a seconder to move into committee of the whole? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour of moving into the committee of the whole? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. And just note, I think appropriate time, 10 minutes in committee of the whole? Yeah, okay. So let's aim for that. Councillor Cherry, would you like to start the discussion?
I guess from my perspective, obviously being a new councillor, much like Councillor Flannery, this is sitting very heavily with me because I've spoken out very strongly in this chamber and in the community about passing on and impost on to every member of the community, in particular those most vulnerable. And I think we know that there are a lot of people, if not everybody, it's going to feel it, including ourselves. So this is weighing very heavily on my conscience because I know that this chamber and this executive team has done a lot of work to get us to a point where I had hoped that this wouldn't be an option. Clearly, the modelling demonstrates that is highly unlikely. So therefore, I'm still very conflicted. I guess as part of the discussion, as we've been having as councillors, is the question that I proposed is I'm still very interested to find out why these options were set as the remit to Morrison and Lowe. I've been doing some reading of the Local Government Act, and I think provision 508 alpha states that we can stretch an SRV if we choose to over a period of 7 years at a much lower rate. So just looking at different options whether we even choose to go down that path. So I guess to start the discussion, I'd love to hear what everyone has to say, because I also think it's very important for the community to hear that. For those people that are dialed in, for those people that will watch this later on, it's very important for them to understand that the people in this room genuinely care about what happens to them as community members. So in saying that, I'd like to pass on to whoever else would like to provide some thoughts.
Who would like to speak next? Councillor Cameron. Oh, sorry, Councillor Carter, you directly after, thank you.
Okay, I was going to speak against the motion, and basically what Mr Burgess has said is illuminating, and I think I was going to start off by saying, well, what's the rush? Why are we rushing into this particular action? Why does Yass Valley Council need to sort of urgently implement a possible permanent SRV? So I think our community is very aware of our financial situation. It's dire and it's difficult. And I've raised the concern over the last 3 years, facing considerable ridicule in the past for my views in the chamber. Maybe it's mentioned we've had a previous SRV, and maybe previous councils were complacent because it was asking for exactly the same, to much the same thing, to get financial sustainability. And I think it was 2015, 2016, and we haven't got that, you know, and I think we've been in that situation for some time. So we've got basically a twofold thing. We've got a problem, and I think how we are in this problem can be debated for a long period of time. People have their own views. But it's really, we've got to be thinking about the possible solutions. And I can think about sort of the history sort of statement that, you know, if you don't know why you arrived at this situation, if you don't know the past, how can you get a solution that's going to work in the future? So maybe you're right, Ms. Burley, that you might have to come up with this every so often. I think the problem that I have with the whole thing at the moment is we're really only looking at one solution.
Yeah.
We're looking at one solution. I had a woman ring me from Murrumbateman today, basically saying to me, you know, what are you discussing? It's a done deal. Basically they see, because that's the only option, it's a done deal, and all we're going to do is just, you know, put our hands up and agree to it. I said to this person that I didn't think that was the case. I think council could reject the motion, or, you know, I hadn't really actually thought about what Mr Burgess said about deferring it. But I think from my particular point of view, I'm sort of thinking that deferral might be the way forward in the short term. And I respect the fact that the CEO has made a good case for not having that particular view. I think we need to consider other possibilities. And I was thinking to myself, when I go around to different community associations, there's a lot of talented people there that we don't draw on at all, who might come in a forum or whatever, might come up with a suggestion saying, have you looked at this? You know, how do we take that into account when we seem to be very much locked in to this permanent SRV solution? You know,
Councillor Cameron, just to ensure that I've got equal amount. No, that's okay. I just wanted to check, do you have any suggestions to amend the current motion to amend it at all, just so I can capture that before I move on to the next councillor?
No, not per se.
Okay. That's fine. Councillor Carter, if I can now give you the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. And unmuting.
No.
Not yet.
No.
Can we just stop the clock for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you just swore.
Councillor Cameron, you don't know that to be true.
I think I would.
I think Councillor Carter will attempt to rejoin us, is that correct?
There is.
Councillors, while we bring Councillor Carter back on, actually. Councillors, I'll provide other councillors the opportunity to speak while we're getting the technical issues sorted. Councillor
I'm happy to speak.
Butler, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry, for moving us into committee of the whole. I think it's really great for us to be able to speak in a slightly more informal position. This is a really sobering package of information that we've all been given, and I think, like Councillor Cherry said, this is something that is weighing heavy on all of us. The most vulnerable in our community are going to feel this the most. I would like to understand our hardship policy, and if we have that absolutely airtight, if we were to consider going out to consultation on the SRV, so that when the consultation process is happening, those that are the most vulnerable can come to you for assurance that this is the avenue that you need to go down if you really truly feel that this is just too impactful for you to be able to remain living in Yass Valley, because that is what it will come down to for some people potentially. I'll touch on what Councillor Flannery and partially what Councillor Cameron said. I don't believe that the SRV is one lever that we're pulling. I think that council has shown a huge amount of work that has been done already to save money and to try and, you know, ensure that this was the last resort and to keep the SRV as low as possible. But we are here, and in terms of volunteering and utilising people in the community, I completely agree. I volunteer across many different, as I know probably everyone sitting around this table volunteers. I don't think that we would be able to claw back almost $4 million in savings from asking volunteers to do work for us in council. I know that that's not what you're saying, particularly Councillor Flannery, but this is too big of a problem to just, I think we've already gone through all of from the data that I've been presented, it shows quite clearly that we have done everything that we can. This SRV is the last sort of cab off the rank to really ensure a prosperous future for Yass Valley. I think that if we don't look at this and go out to the consultation and allow our community to engage in this process and speak about it, I don't know what that will do for Yass Valley. I don't know what the ramifications of that will be. Will the administrators come in? The ratepayers are potentially going to pay no matter what. So even if the administrators come in, they'll still want to turn this around. So it's not a nice place to be, but that is the sobering facts of it all.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I'll just check in and see if we have Councillor Carter.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Councillor Carter.
I've got a question actually to the acting, sorry, the CEO, sorry, apologies, to the acting staff briefly. So in relation to Councillor Butler's point, when would or when could something like administration materialise?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I can't give a definitive answer. It's the OLG that makes that decision, the Office of Local Government, and there would be a number of factors that play into that. Certainly, you know, we've said that we are on their watch list or their radar, if you like, and we've been working with the OLG. You know, we had predicted a $4.7 million deficit for last financial year and turned that into a $1.7 million surplus. So we have been working really, really hard to turn that around, but that comes at a cost. You know, that comes at a cost in terms of when, you know, not doing some of the things that we need to be doing. In terms of the Office of Local Government, I would not like to speak on their behalf, but certainly it is, you know, it is a lever they can pull, and it is an option that they may consider at some point in time for council if we can't get to a point of being financially sustainable.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of comments further, if I may, Madam Mayor. I want to note the sense of concern from a number of fellow councillors around the table. These are unbelievably complex and unpleasant conversations to be having. I want to note that I think as a council over this particular 12 months of working, we worked really hard. I note the work and comments of Councillor Flannery around trying to get the house in order, in effect, from a financial point of view. And a lot of those challenges and questions and a lot of really important and actually quite positive decisions have been taken by the Chamber, and I want to acknowledge the work of the Chamber in making those decisions. But we've been talking about finances from day one. There was lots of conversation about finances throughout the election campaign from 14 months ago or so. It's been a chalice and somewhat of a poison chalice that continues to, I suppose, haunt the work of this group in many ways. And so it is really quite a challenging and unpleasant discussion to have. I want to note that these are issues that have been bubbling away for quite some time. This is not a series of issues that have just suddenly materialised, and this is not just something that's happened this year. It's not just cost of living inflation rises that happened in 24-25. There have been significant challenges for quite some time that unfortunately decisions haven't been taken on in order to arrest some of those those trends that were within some of the long-term financial plans. I want to acknowledge, and a number of councillors already made comments about this, that this is going to impact drastically, if it materialises, on many of the most vulnerable members of our population. For those living on, for example, age pensions, this will consume almost all of discretionary income that they might have. For those that are in insecure work, casual work, or unemployed, this is a drastically challenging conversation for them to have in terms of how do they move forward. For many of our rural communities, for our farmers, those that are might have lots of land, but often farmers are cash poor. This is quite challenging, and so this exposes the vulnerable sides of all of our communities. I wasn't pleased with the report. I don't think it dealt with that accurately. I think telling the community that Yass Valley is a wealthy community by whatever standards does not speak to the reality of those that live through struggle. And I think we need to acknowledge that in our conversations, that this will disproportionately impact upon some of our community. It means that things like no rate payments will increase. The inability to pay will increase for a number of members of our community. Those that have discretionary income are probably going to be okay. They may not like it, but this is a chamber of all of the communities. We need to think through the implications of that more broadly. The one thing that I really didn't like, and I've mentioned this to the CEO previously in an email, I would have liked to have seen the long-term financial plan modelling. I would like to have seen how this actually told us that it gets us back to a requisite position that we need to be. I'm not necessarily convinced that we have pulled every lever. We were challenged by the Deputy Secretary of Local Government, New South Wales, to pull every lever. We've pulled some levers, but not all of them. And there does seem to be a sense that underpinning many of those conversations has been we'll get to an SRV and that will solve all problems. I have to admit that there seems to be two kinds of conversations going on in the SRV in the form. I suppose one thing I will note that whatever you ask a consultant, they will come back and give you advice on. And so the particular question that one gives to a consultant in terms of a report, does lead to the types of conclusions that they will draw, and hence I suspect that's why they came up with 3 variations at 40, 50 and 56%, or the precise ramifications of the numbers in front of us. We could ask those questions differently, and part of the challenge, it seems, is that we're trying to combine two things. We're trying to combine a need to improve the long-term financial plan and get back to financial sustainability, but we're also doing stuff around assets. And I'm just not entirely convinced that the community is going to buy an argument that you get a better road where it's graded better, but you have to pay 40% more for that. I'm not sure if that's going to necessarily wash with the whole community. And so I think there's a lot of work to do here still. A lot of people are talking about information that's missing or lacking. I do think we need to hear the voice of the community on some of these matters though as well. But there's still, I think, significant questions about the end goal here that I would like to have more information about. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. And just noting that you weren't able to stay for the entirety of the previous workshop, we actually unpacked the two ideas that we're trying to do in lockstep, which is sustainability, financial sustainability, and the uplift to the Office of Local Government's expectation on how we sustain our assets. So I might just throw to our CEO to respond, because I think it's important that all councillors understand what we're trying to achieve with this SRB, because it is twofold.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. So in the first year, if we did a 1 year 40% rate variation, would equate to $5.2 million additional income or revenue for council, $2 million of which would go into addressing the operational deficit. 2.5 million is going to additional roads maintenance, and that's maintenance could be also gravel resheeting. And another 700,000 is for additional maintenance requirement for asset classes such as bridges, buildings, footpaths, pools and stormwater. So that we do have further breakdowns of what the first year would look like, but given that it is a permanent rate rise, you know, that's pretty much how we would slice and dice it, because, you know, in another 5 years, other asset classes might need more money than some others. We need that flexibility, but right now, 2 million to the deficit, $2.5 million to roads, and 700,000 to other other asset classes.
Councillors, I've been listening to some of the things that you're raising. Would you consider, when we come back out of the committee of the whole, to amend the motion so that we watch every dollar and understand how we can prioritise those reviews that you want to see. You want to see what are the other levers that we're going to pull in the next 12 months. I think everyone appreciates we don't have the time that we would like, that we need to address the financial sustainability now before we get into the restricted funds. Would you consider that we add another point which receives a quarterly report which provides an update of the actions achieved in the Financial Sustainability Roadmap Action Plan, and the opportunity to review and reprioritise action items contained within that action plan? So then we can come back November and go, well, what are the actions that we're going to do, and the community can see for the next 12 months or the next 24 months where we're taking them. And look, a lot of that is in the Financial Sustainability Roadmap anyway, but if we uplift it and get more interaction from the community and from councillors as to what is the priorities, so that we can identify the opportunities, whether it's the partnerships with the community or whether it's the doing it differently to find efficiencies. Yeah,
Madam Mayor.
So one second, Councillor Mayor, because I haven't given an opportunity for everyone to talk in the committee in the whole. Yeah, sorry, yes, Councillor.
I'd just like to say this is going to hurt the people that live in town, the tobacco's, the pensioners, and the farmers. The farmers has had a bad time this last 12 months. We had a green drought. We've lost a lot of sheep. The lambing percentages are terrible. And the wool price is not good, the meat market's not too bad. I think this will knock a lot of us off, and us people that rent lease farms off other people, they're going to put that up, so we're going to get us farmers at lease, and we're going to get another charge from these rate rights, because we're going to have to pay. And I don't like it, and I think it's too much. 40% is too much over the.
I think you'll find it closer to 50% over 3 years. Over 3 years?
A little bit, yeah.
Close to 50 over 3 years.
It's too much. It's going to be too hard on most people. The pensioners especially, the farmers and the ordinary person in the street. That's what I think.
Councillors, I haven't given Councillor McGrath an opportunity to speak.
Madam Mayor, I share the concerns other councils have to spare, particularly for those on low incomes or no incomes, on pensions. The council is, we are in a rock, between a rock and a hard place. When the CEO talks about our assets, she's talking about the community's assets, our roads, our bridges, our sports grounds. Where do we cut? I mean, we've got a problem with roads now, a serious problem with some roads. We've had how many petitions about Mark Trevor? And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to make some small improvements there. I hate rate pegging. Rate pegging has been something that councils have had to put up with for the last 30, 40 years. The rate is determined by an organisation in Sydney. We get a 2% rate rise and we're 2% behind. Parramatta gets a 2% rate rise and they look around, where are we going to spend all this money? Or we'll sponsor the local football team. The Parramatta Eagles for $1 million. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's something that local governments got to live with. And the only resolution provided in the system is for special rate variation. And we've really got nowhere else to go.
But it does need to be known that with our current leadership team, they've done an incredible job on finding the inefficiencies and sorting things out. Where we've been let down was previous leaders and so on.
Councillors, noting the tone of the room and the concern for, sorry?
May I say something?
Yes.
You all at once.
Yes.
Look, I mean, I know I've spoken against it and I've really tried to emphasise that. I concur with Councillor Cameron saying that, you know, it's going to hurt a lot of people and that's a shared feeling. I just am really challenging why we have to do it now. What is the burning issue? We're going to cut some pools opening. The pool committee that have raised by themselves $500,000. The, Marchmont Racecourse Trust brought $1 million into town, all on their own volition, who had to call the council 7 times to get an answer about how much does it cost to put a DA in. Other councillors, you're saying we're going to have a little checklist about where we're going to spend the money and we're going to watch over it. I want to see some of that evidence before we put the rates up. Like, I really do want to see how we change our business. We, earlier this year, and I voted against it, all took a pay increase. Okay? I voted against it. So please don't tell me that everyone is tightening their belt, doing everything more efficiently. We took a pay increase. I accepted it. I didn't vote for it. So there's a whole range of things that I think we can do. I totally respect our new CEO and our new finance officer and our team. But there's a fair bit of cleaning out and getting that attitude and getting that responsiveness to bring business back to where it should be and having a look at how our rates are charged. I just don't support it at all.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Councillors, I noted Councillor Cherry and Councillor Butler's comments in particular about concern over hardship. So I wanted to give the opportunity for the CEO to respond to when we're bringing back the hardship policy for review. I believe it's coming up very soon.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So we plan to have the hardship policy brought to council at the November council meeting to be placed on public exhibition. It's important that regardless of whether we have a special rate variation or not, that we have our policies up to date. But obviously it's more so when we're in the midst of talking about special rate variation. So that draft policy will be presented to the November council meeting for councillors to consider and also to be placed on public exhibition.
Councillors noting that if there's no appetite in the room to consider the other 2 options, which would have a cumulative impact of 16.16% for option 2 and 58.70% for option 3. Councillors, would you like to consider amending the motion that council informs the community that council's SRV preference is option 1, which is the 40% SRV, which has the following benefits: that it has the lowest impact on ratepayers at 47.81% cumulative over 3 years, acknowledging that it also has the highest first increase but the lowest overall impact. It allows council to address its negative unrestricted cash balance faster, and as it is only over 1 year, it reduces the risk of having to absorb the rate peg increase if they end up being above what has been forecast. It ensures an improvement of council's assets and continuity of council's livability services and facilities, for example, our parks, schools, libraries, sports fields, which is what we discussed before, which would be on the chopping block in order to get that $3 million or more worth of savings every single year. Sorry, 4.2 if we include the 700k that was already committed to funding.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, we're still in committee of
We are,
the whole, and the time is.
Expired, okay. Councillors, I just wanted to see if someone's interested in amending the motion to capture that or not.
The capturing of that is saying that council's preference, because it's less burdening overall on the community, is option 1, the 40%.
Correct.
1 hit. However, if we did go out to consultation, all options would be available to be discussed by the community. I don't think that we should be not allowing community to choose or to have a say on a particular option, because a lot of people might choose to wear a bigger hit for interest rate to make it in more manageable payments.
Correct, and I think that's a part of this listening exercise is when, we can acknowledge right now that we see that it has the lowest impact, but if the community responds in a certain way that they prefer it over the 3 years, and that's something that we can take on board from the January meeting. So councillors, what we need to do now is to actually decide whether or not we're doing anything in the committee of the whole. Excuse me, Councillor Flannery, I just really need to give everyone the opportunity to actually make an adjustment, if they want to the motion, so we can lift it up and take something to the meeting, because we've run out of time.
I was just going to ask how many rates are outstanding, how much rates are outstanding. My guesstimate, I think from total 15 or 16, said close to 3 million in rates, which would be the amount that we're seeking. I just am wondering why we're not pursuing that option before we put up our rate charges. We may well be pursuing it.
Councillor,
I mean, if you're running a business, you go after your money.
And we could do a lot of things that could gain us $3 million in 1 year, but the year after that and the year after
So
that.
we're going to introduce a hardship policy that says for hardship, add more to the debt without going after the debt, and get business owners and people to pay for that. Like, I just think it's a flawed policy.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Sorry, councillors, do we have an appetite to adjust the recommendation or not? I just really need to move this back into the main meeting.
I'm happy to move that as an amendment. I don't think that I think it's just stepping out very clearly what the 40% would achieve, and it's not going to, adversely impact on anybody's ability to have a proper conversation about all 3 models. So I'm happy to include that. I don't think that makes any difference.
Okay. Councillors, will you just put that up on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, that one, with 0.6 as well.
Madam Mayor, I can't see that.
No, you can't. Okay.
I can't see.
Nor can we, so.
Councillor Carter, I am going to copy and send to you rapidly. That actually is really difficult for everyone to see, so I'm just going to send it to everyone.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to touch on something that Councillor Rothwell spoke about in his address, and that's ensuring that if council was to receive what they're asking for, how can we ensure that it's being spent responsibly and the departments that it's being given to is held accountable to spend it, and that we don't go back out 10 years later and go, oopsies, that didn't really work and we need to ask for more now. I don't know how we do that. Is that from a CEO position to, I know that you're not micromanaging departments, but you know, I'd like to know, and I think the ratepayers would like to know, that if they do, if council receives what it's asking for, that it's going to be financially responsible in spending that money.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's a number of mechanisms that we can do. So one of the first things that we have listed to do in our financial sustainability roadmap is a review of all procurement and contracts. To try and get bigger bang for our dollar, making sure that we're actually getting good procurement value for that dollar. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing. But in addition to that, council's going to be undertaking service reviews systematically, year on year, because we can't do it all at once, across our whole business. One of the first places we would look at is, for example, our roads, and making sure that we're delivering the work that we're doing is value for money and done as efficiently as possible. The recommendations that come from such a review are then implemented and tracked through our internal audit process, and they don't drop off until they're actually done and completed. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of service reviews, but we've already commenced that from a financial perspective. We've done a lot of work in that space, and it is a requirement in local government to do service reviews across the organisation in a systematic process.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, we have a version, an amended version to bring up to the council meeting. We have, can I have a mover and a seconder to uplift that recommendation into the meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot see that your hand is up, Councillor Carter.
Well, two questions, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure if we've agreed to the amended version per se. Do we not need to vote on that before we take it up? And then the second point is, I'm really uncomfortable with this motion because we don't have the actual information in front of us that allows us to have surety as to what's claimed, particularly within that. That is, I don't have a long-term financial plan updated in front of me that demonstrates what you're claiming materialises. So I'm really desperately uncomfortable putting forward a motion where we don't have the actual, as a financial accountant, as a chartered accountant, I hand on heart, cannot vote for that without having information in front of me. So I'm really uncomfortable with that particular amendment.
So Councillor Carter, that would be an issue, wouldn't you agree with both motions for you then? Like, regardless of which one?
Well, I'm not in a position to indicate which way I'm going to vote, but I certainly can't vote for a motion that indicates a positive statement without the information in front of me.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Councillors, in order to uplift it, could we please have a mover and a seconder for the motion within the Committee of the Whole? As the recommendation.
Sorry, we're still in the Committee of the Whole. We are.
So we're still in, we're desperately trying to get out, trust me.
So
Thank you, Councillor McGrath.
Yeah,
Okay, so Councillor McGrath and Councillor Butler seconded the amended recommendation to bring that up into the council meeting. Can I have an indication of hands who support the amended motion within the committee of the whole. All those in favour? Councillor Butler, Councillor McGrath, Councillor Jones, Councillor Rothwell. That's 4. Can I now see who those are against? Councillor Cameron, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Burgess, Councillor Cherry, Councillor Carter. That motion is lost. So councillors, I'm sorry, Councillor Flannery, we've now finished, unless you have an alternate that you would like to put forward to this, we really do need to return to the meeting itself. So do you have an
I
alternate?
was going to ask you a question.
Go ahead, Councillor Flannery.
Thank you. I guess we've been asked for assurances, like if we get, you know, the special rate variation is given or granted, what are the assurances that we have that the money will be spent wisely and properly and efficiently?
Okay,
In actual fact, we don't. We
Councillor
don't.
Flannery, if you can take your seat for a moment, because this is what we actually need to do in the debate, in the meeting. So if I can have a mover to take us out of committee of the whole. So moved Councillor Cameron. So moved, seconded Councillor Cherry. All those in favour, moving out, that's unanimous. Okay, councillors, we are now at the returned council meeting. We have no change in the recommendation before us that Councillor Butler and Councillor Flannery moved for the purposes of debate at the beginning of our meeting. And I note that Councillor Butler declined her comment. Councillor Flannery has already commented on the original motion before you, which is the recommendation in the business papers. Councillors, we have a recommendation that tells us that we will take 3 options going forward. It has 4 points in it. I'll now call for a speaker for the motion, since we've had a speaker against already in Councillor Flannery.
Can I just say, sorry, just asking a question, is there, I can't, it's very unclear to see this at the moment.
So it's the recommendation that's in the business papers,
thought
on
there was-
page
was there
3 of 11.
It's 4.
Alright,
Wonderful, okay.
okay.
So councillors, do I have a speaker for the motion, which is the recommendation in the business papers? Okay, do I have a speaker against?
Can I speak?
You've already spoken, Councillor Flannery. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak. It's rare to happen.
Just following due process, Councillor Cameron, you had your
And you're
opportunity to speak.
doing it extremely well, my way. Look, one of the reasons why I was going to point to this was the first part of this motion is talking about, like in part 1 here, it says, I'm just trying to sort of read it at the moment. Yeah, can we scroll it up a little bit more? It talks about the 3 different documents that we're talking about, and basically in the first part, in A, it says investigate and consider an SRV. Second part, with B, it talks about, thank you for bringing it up, part B, it talks about 2025 and 2029 looking at an SRV, and the implication seems to be to me that we're already starting to do that in 2025 and not later on. And then in C, again, we're talking about, if we can just raise it a little bit so I can see it a bit easier, please. A little bit higher up.
Your eyesight is forward.
Sorry.
It's just taking a little while.
All right, okay. Investigate special rate variation. And so part 1 of this particular motion is talking about investigation consideration. What the motion is actually doing is actually starting us in the process of a special rate variation. And this is the problem that I have with the motion. We are on the track to go down to a special rate variation. Now you can argue a number of different ways whether this is the right thing to do or not. And we've had this sort of discussion a bit in the previous half hour. But I think, I don't think we have done a sufficient investigation. I think to some extent we've done sufficient investigation for councillors, but I'm not sure for the community. And so I'm sort of basically saying that I'm not happy with the whole sort of engagement process. I think we've had an opportunity to have more general conversations over a period of time, starting to get people talking about seriously about what the special rate variation could be, whether it's 15%, 20%, 30%, 40%. We could have been starting that discussion 5 or 6 months ago, or even earlier, before our current CEO got here and made a difference. Okay, so I'm saying that the engagement process is flawed. It's flawed. I've recently talked to a councillor colleague in Queanbeyan, Ballarat, who basically said they took months to look at the special rate variation. And they were successful. They got something like 68% or something. And this particular person was well in favour of it and encouraging me to support such a special rate variation. But they took time. They took time with the community for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months at least, to do it. We're trying to do it in 4 weeks, and I think that's not appropriate at this time of the year, when we're basically looking to the end of the year, racing towards the end of the year. I didn't even realise about harvest and shearing and etc. that the farming community faces as well. But I just don't think the engagement is good enough at this particular point. So I think, for the fact that we haven't really investigated on behalf of the community and got that information out in a good way, in a succinct way, and the engagement process, one of the things that Queanbeyan did was go to all the community associations and had meetings. And we could have done that as well, but we haven't. We're doing a different process. So I'm arguing against the motion.
Okay, councillors, do we have a speaker for? Alright, councillors, I will take this opportunity to speak for my one time in this actual part of the debate. $500 million worth of assets. That's what we have to look after. We have to keep it in good shape. 70% of that is roads, both sealed and unsealed, 1,200 kilometres, actually more. What we're asking for in this uptick is $5.2 million to address a backlog of $3 million each year in roads maintenance and a $2 million operating deficit. Not only are we not financially sustainable, we are already, as a dog, eating the tail. We are eating into our reserves that are set aside for plant replacement, for everything that we need to do to be sustainable. Quarry rehabilitation, the sites that we used to use for tips, we have to set aside money for those to rehabilitate those so that we are good local government citizens. I do not want to break faith with our community on the things that we have set aside to make sure that their assets are maintained. I would rather tell them the hard news and tell them how much we need collectively as citizens, you and me and all of our community that pay rates. I would rather have that hard conversation and have it now rather than over the next 12 to 18 months say, by the way, as we have this conversation, we're not going to be able to open the new library that we've just built for this community for the hours that we thought we would. That pools may be closed for certain hours, if they're open at all. That the roads that they have been screaming at us to grade and fix will not be attended to anytime soon. The amount of money that we are able to put into this rate into our budget changes the narrative forever going forward for Yass Valley. And while the 2016 rate variation put 38% into the budget, the hard work wasn't done in the way that it should have. And we are seeing now a team that are doing the work. They have changed around a deficit into a small surplus. We have an obligation as councillors to build on their work and not to pull the rug underneath them. I know it's going to be tough, that's why we're going to have our hardship policy brought forward. But there are things about this community that we all love. Our livability, the fact that our kids get to play on a great sports field. But there are things as well that we are all seeing happening before our very eyes. That there are roads that are at rock bottom, that grading it is just debilitating for the staff to go out and do because they can see it's not having an impact, because we actually need resheeting. We need to be putting more gravel on those roads. We can see that the roundabouts in our main street are tired and we've got no funds to actually go and fix it. We want to have a sustainable tree policy, yet just to do the work is costing us thousands. Will we actually be able to implement it? No, not if we don't have an injection of funds. I don't want to break faith with our business community either. We have so many world-class wineries. If we don't have a visitor information centre open where we can showcase their works, if we don't have a magazine or an online platform that we were able to showcase us as a destination, it doesn't just impact on the fact that we don't have any employees now in the Visitor Information Centre, it impacts that those local businesses aren't showcased to the world for the beautiful place that we are and the economic development that's happening. I want to have an open for business sign when it comes to Yass Valley, but I can't do that if there's not a team of planners that can deal with those DAs. We've already heard from the business chamber that there is a backlog to address, not only in the roads but also in DAs. So councillors, I don't want to be I don't want to be a council that's not brave enough to take the hard steps. 76% of councils have gone and have been successful for special rate variations, which tells you this is not a Yass Valley problem. This is a New South Wales, how local government is supported. The rate peg is simply not enough for us to maintain $500 million worth of assets. That's what we have to look after for our community. We cannot do it on the budget that we have. And even if we find $700,000 worth of savings each year, which we're committed to doing, if we don't go for this special rate variation, we are having to find $3.5 million every year going forward, and we will not be addressing the backlog of the roads that we know that we have. So I say that we should be going out to community consultation. We need to hear from our community which one of these is what they can live with. We need to make sure that our hardship policy is in place. And while we are told that we have capacity, reasonable capacity to pay in Yass Valley, I believe that we all around this table have an obligation to have those conversations with our community. If you cannot do this, if you can't find this in your budget, and what it equates to is $3.02 extra per week above what the rate above what the rate peg would have introduced if you look back after the 3 years of it being implemented. If that's too much, we need to hear about it so that we don't have anyone fall through the cracks here in Yass Valley. I think that's pretty much all what I wanted to cover, except that we were told by Brett Whitworth when he came to us to pull all the levers, and we are pulling all the levers. We have a financial sustainability roadmap which shows exactly what we have done and what we're going to do, and I can unequivocally promise our residents that I will stay up at night making sure that we have ticked every box and we have watched every dollar and make sure that we have checked for every efficiency, because there is a wealth of talent not only around this table but now in our executive that will look for the creative ways. We will not assume that anything going forward is business as usual, because we need to do business better so that Yass Valley becomes better. Okay, So that's just what I wanted to say, and I know that Councillor Butler has the right of reply, but I just want to make sure that everyone who wants to have the opportunity to speak may. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your impassioned conversation. I suppose what I would simply say is that informed decisions are best decisions. I don't think anyone questions the sentiment of the statements that you're making, but I don't have an oracle ability, so I can't look into these papers and hand on heart confirm that those particular outcomes that you've just spoken about are actually going to materialise. They, in effect, are promises. But to vote on something like that, I would like to see the information. I think that's the key thing. And if that information is able to materialise, which demonstrates that, actually we do get back to a long-term financial plan, which is ultimately our goal and requirement to a position where it is sustainable, that would be really helpful in making this direction. I'm worried about the pace of this. This is moving really fast. There are other alternatives to how one can go through these conversations. We've made a lot of decisions this year. We've had a lot of success. We've got a lot of people that, in the executive team around the table in the chamber who are making excellent contributions to the discussion. The risk ultimately, though, is that we're being asked to make what is a drafted conversation and decision for a lot of people without necessarily having the requisite information in front of us. And I think that's the challenge. There seem to be, from what I can gather from the conversation, three predominant questions which I think are outstanding, which is why now? Why these amounts? And are we comfortable and confident that this brings about the outcomes that we are seeking as a group? I don't think anyone disagrees with the sentiment of what you're asking about. But you've also had the business chamber today say, actually, we're not sure if this information is as good as it could be. So there's multiple mixed views here. I think we need to get our house in order. I would prefer us to have the hardship policy in place before you went out to the community and said, this is what's going to happen. Because ultimately that might be part of the negotiations and conversations you have with people. So I think we've talked a lot about having our house in order. To me, there's answering some of those questions, having all of these policies in place before we go out to the community. I think doing what Councillor Cameron makes perfect sense, going around and talking to every one of our constituents, our community associations, getting their viewpoints, and then going out for at a later date for some form of conversation that needs to take place. A lot of faith has been placed in promises, and that's a dangerous place to be making decisions. But thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. And I might just go to our Chief Executive Officer, because what you touched on then about the hardship policy, I think it's important to understand that the team will be doing, as part of the community engagement, sit down so that people can actually take their rates notice with them and say, what will change? And what will the change be, right down to the dollar for me personally when we go out on our road trip for this? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I would like to say Council does have a hardship policy. It's not like we don't have one, we do have one. What we're doing is a timely review of that policy to make sure it is as accommodating as it can be with this special rate variation in mind. So I think that's a really important thing to note. The other thing is, in that community engagement strategy, we do have a comprehensive engagement plan. We are coming to talk to all of the community groups. We have built that into the community engagement strategy. That is what we are doing. Today is about hitting the go button on the community engagement and allowing staff to have that discussion with the stakeholders and with the community. Without this resolution today, we really can't go out and talk about an SRV that Council hasn't supported or hasn't had some sort of input into. So we need this resolution to have those conversations. And I have, whilst I have not done a deep dive into Queanbeyan, I'm sure the community engagement strategy they had would be like we've had. You have a resolution to say, go out for community engagement, and this is how we will do that community engagement. A decision about whether council would or would not go for an SRB does not come into effect in our project until January 2026, which then a further application is made to IPART in February, 2nd of February 2026, of which would not come, even if we are successful, does not come into effect until the 1st of July 2026. So this is the community engagement strategy that is included within the document. We cannot go out and talk to the community about a special rate variation without you resolving to do so.
And the follow-on question from Councillor Carter was why these amounts? And I think that talks to that sustainability model.
Yes, so we did not go to the consultants and ask for 40%. We did not go to the consultants and ask for any specific model whatsoever. We asked them to open our books, and we know we're operating at a deficit. How do we get to a sustainable level? What does it look like for Yass Valley Council to be sustainable? They are the ones who proposed a sustainability model that addresses our deficit as well as addressing our assets. This is quite different from what I've seen in other councils where they've had SRBs that look at their issues. Our issue is around not meeting the LG benchmarks for sustainable assets. I'm hearing from councillors and the community, as you are, around our road network. We can't improve that road network with our financials the way they are. It will be more of the same unless we do drastic measures to other services. And so that, as I said, that 40%, we never mentioned 40%, we never asked the consultants to come up with anything. They came back to us and said, this is the model that is needed for you. They modelled our current situation with our long-term financial plan, and then they said, well, what does it take to get you to a sustainable level in terms of your financials, as well as sustainable, how do you meet the OLG benchmark for sustainable assets? That's how they came up with the 40%. The reason, and you're absolutely right, Councillor Cherry, IPART do allow for 7 years. Traditionally, IPART have not approved variations that go beyond 3 or 4 years, so that is a risk. The other thing is if you go for something that's 7 years, the more and more you push it out, the less accurate your modelling becomes. So we don't know if there's another COVID around the corner, we don't know whether there's another disaster around the corner, and we don't know what the rate peg will be for those years. So the rate peg for next year is actually 3.4%. What we're asking for is an extra 36.6% because we absorb the rate peg within that 40%. So every year you go out, we have our estimate on crystal balling what that rate peg might be that gets absorbed can put us further behind. So the rating methodology changed in 23, 24, I think, or 24, 25. Yeah, it might have been 24, 25, which some councils now are receiving an extra levy for dams, non-water-based dams, for example. Now, for the councils that have an SRB in place, they don't get that. They don't get that extra money because they've got an SRB, and that's how it works, how the model works. So the further you put this out, the less assurity we have that the modelling is going to be right because you're crystal ball.
Have we given every councillor the opportunity to speak? Councillor Terry, have you already spoken? Because I haven't got it down.
I haven't spoken.
Okay.
Mayor, I haven't spoken during the debate, I've spoken
Yes.
during the whole.
Okay. Councillor Terry, it's your opportunity if you choose to use it.
And Mayor, may I move a foreshadowed motion?
Yes, you may.
We're at the risk of being highly unpopular in this room. Chloe, can you bring it up? Send it to you. And just a bit of context here, I haven't had input from the staff or from the governance officer, and obviously noting the comments that have been made. I've taken a few notes and tried to capture something that can resemble a level of consensus in the room. Once it's up, Chloe, I'm more happy to read it for wider distribution, noting it is a foreshadowed motion.
Councillor Cherry, would you be able to email it?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Just because it's difficult to
Madam
read
Mayor,
on
if I may
this
do
screen,
that?
if that's all right.
Yes, of course, yes. Let me just do this. in everyone's inbox. And for greater awareness, as a foreshadowed motion, I move that. Paragraph 1, Council defer consideration of proceeding to community consultation on a special rate variation until full review of alternative financial options has been completed. Point 2, Council directs the CEO to prepare a report to the February 2026 ordinary meeting outlining further efficiencies and cost-saving measures across council operations, opportunities to increase non-rate income, including through council-owned land, commercial partnerships, outsourcing, and voluntary planning agreements. Paragraph C, verification of the rating database to ensure all properties are correctly classified and rate income is maximised. Paragraph D, updated growth and revenue projections reflecting improved developments. Paragraph E, modelling of a longer-term SRV option should it still be required post that analysis. And final paragraph, Council reaffirms commitment. Let me just say that again. Council reaffirms its commitment to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and community confidence by ensuring that any SRV proposal is only pursued once all other practical options have been fully examined and reported to Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder for the foreshadowing motion? Councillor Cameron? Okay, councillors, we now have an opportunity to have the item closed by Councillor Butler for the motion.
Sorry, can I just digest this a little,
Sure.
just like 1 minute to
Sure.
just really read that?
Can you just go to the timing? I just wasn't quite sure whether, just to clarify, because I can only see the point 3, I think that above it had the time that you were anticipating this.
The modelling?
I think it was at the top, you mentioned something about February.
February, the next ordinary meeting.
But
I guess that
what are we
can
doing in
be
February is what I'm
noting the procedure, we can amend that if we need to.
I was just wondering if February is too soon.
Definitely happy to change that. Just be able
I just think it might be a lot to take in by then.
understood. And agree.
Okay, councillors, just speaking about the foreshadowed motion, I need that checked. I think the foreshadowed motions can be foreshadowed.
So we have to close the debate on the motion, so you can put that and move it to be still if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, that's what I thought, sorry, it's just a communication problem, yeah, not a procedure problem, okay, sorry. Councillors, so we have a foreshadowed motion that we're going to park to the side while we finalise our current motion. If the current motion is successful, it will make the foreshadowed motion lapse and there's no further action on the foreshadowed. If the current motion is not successful, then we will pick up the foreshadowed motion. Okay. Councillor Butler, would you like to close the debate on?
Is there no way that we can discuss the foreshadowed motion, or is it parked and that's it, there's no discussion on this? Because this is interesting and...
You can ask questions that allow you to get clarity on the motion before you, I guess in background context of what you now see before you, but we need to, I guess, ask questions regarding the motion before you. And for example, hypothetically, if this current motion that's on the table, your motion, if that's on the table, if it was not successful, what does deferring it actually do? Like, what are the implications of deferring it?
This is my question.
Yeah.
I would like to know what risk we run for the entire community if we were to defer. Because I think that I like this in here, but I also don't want to risk this. And I know we don't have a crystal ball of when those administrators might come in and go, you guys are knocking around, we're going to just take control now. I don't know what that risk is, so I'd like to get some advice, as much as you could give on this.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I won't comment on administrators, that's not my role, it's not my job, it's not my remit. But what I can say is, we will be operating at a deficit, our cash, unrestricted cash will be, incredibly depleted. We will be borrowing to keep the lights on come next financial year or the year after. We will have depleted all of our internal reserves, which means we have no ability to fund, basic requirements, and we will have to take out a loan to borrow to keep to do operations.
Will we be able to get a loan?
That's a conversation that we will need to have with the commercial lending facility.
Yes, Councillor
If we were able to pursue rates and get our $3 million that's owing to us, would we have to, I just really feel that we're looking at risks, but we're looking at risks of doing something that's permanent, rate increases are permanent.
Councillor Flannery, I thought you were asking.
So my question was, or is, how do you have has the modelling included pursuing rates and getting 50% of those rates in, and what impact would that have on our current financial position? Should we get 1.5 million or 1.2 million of the whatever million owing to us?
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and I believe that the Director of Community Corporate might like to answer.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The current modelling assumes that all rates are paid and there's no outstanding rates.
Okay, so the table is incorrect, showing that.
So at the moment, we've just put our rates out for the year, 25, 26. And all future modelling would assume that everyone pays their rates.
Yes, but in one of the tables, and I'll just have to flick to it, it shows that we already have an outstanding
We do,
debt.
yes,
So it has assumed that that has been paid.
correct, and we're still in the deficit.
Thank you, councillors. So I'd like now to, sorry, question, Councillor Carter?
Yeah, sorry, to the CEO, through you, Madam Mayor, that moment, that tipping point when we would need that loan, that's not tomorrow, right? That's not in the absolute next couple of weeks type moment, because this rate variation wouldn't kick in until much later anyway. So I'm just wondering when actually is that tipping moment you're talking about of the need to secure alternative funding, etc., etc.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So no, it's not tomorrow, but we are eating into our internal reserves. The rate, if it was the reason why we could keep it at 40% if it was 1 year is because that gives us a cash injection that we need to be able to operate. The reason why it gets more expensive when it's 2 years or 3 years is because a 2 year doesn't give us the cash injection that we need in year 1. And therefore it follows through. I'll refer to our CFO in terms of, I believe it's 27, 28, is that correct?
In the current long-term plan, it's 27, 28, so as we approach into 28, 29, we would need to borrow funds for general fund.
Yeah.
For unrestricted.
And of course, that's in the instance that everything goes to our plan, right? So there are bumps in the night, as we all know. So, assuming everything goes to plan, we're looking at 27, 28 with, by then we will have no internal reserves.
Can I ask a follow-up question, if I may, Madam Mayor? We did have permission at one particular point in time to draw on some of the money, I believe, from our water fund. Has that facility been removed, or is that time dependent, or does that continue? Maybe a question for the CFO as well.
So through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you're absolutely correct, Councillor Carter. We did make a submission to the Office of Local Government, submission to the Minister, which has delegated responsibility to the Office of Local Government to access our externally restricted reserves. And whilst there's no deadline on that, the reason for that was to do with our financial assistance grants and the timing of that. My understanding from talking to the OLG is that if we would like to access the externally restricted reserves, we would need to make application again based on new information. And so that is subject to the ministerial approval. Yeah, and further to that, we still need to pay that back. It's done as a loan, there is an interest rate that's applied, like you would from a commercial facility. In addition to that, we know that we need those reserves to fund our essential water and sewer upgrades that we have planned. So again, you're dipping into a reserve that is needed for our assets to be sustainable.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Councillor Butler, if I can call upon you to close the debate on the
I will
motion
close.
before us.
I would like to give the opportunity to
Sorry,
Councillor-
Councillor Butler, if I can
Sorry.
just ask you to stay.
I'd like to give the opportunity to Councillor Flannery as the seconder to have her last reply first, and then I will make
I'm sorry, that's not actually in the
Excuse
meeting
me,
code.
don't you have a microphone?
No, we don't have a microphone.
microphone.
So, I'm sorry, Councillor Butler, that's not actually in the meeting code practice. The mover of the motion has the final word.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I speak to the foreshadowed motion at all, or no?
Unfortunately, we've got the motion on the table at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, can I ask a question about the foreshadowed motion?
Yes, before you close.
I'll do one quick question. Let's just say this got up and we did all of those things and we did all our due diligence, which I think is incredibly important, which I'm not saying that, I think we've already done that, to be fair. If we can't turn it around still, we could potentially be looking at a higher rate. It might not be 40% anymore, it might be 68% like Queen Bee and Pellerine just had to go for. It might be high, so that's another risk that we run without having a crystal ball. So that's just maybe more of a comment than a question. Just to close, I spoke to a community member today about the timing of these types of meetings, and I just wanted to apologise to the community because it is something I didn't even consider. But when we're having these really significant meetings, our meetings are at 4 o'clock, and not that they're not all significant, but this is an incredibly significant that affects every single one of our community. We shouldn't be holding them at 4 p.m. They should be at a later time, and we should be able to facilitate more people to be able to come to those meetings physically in person. That was the only closing remark that I wanted to. So moving forward, I would just ask that if we are having extraordinary meetings or meetings that affect every single one of our community members, that we please try and make sure that they are later in the day to facilitate more attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. It's now time to vote on the recommendation, and I'll just go through the points of it. That we note the 3 options of the special rate variation modelled in the attached reports, which include the operational plan, the delivery program and the sustainability roadmap. The recommendation is to endorse the comprehensive community engagement program be undertaken regarding the proposed application to the Independent Pricing and Regulatory Tribunal, IPART, for a special rate variation SRV to apply from the financial year 26-27. 3, requires the Chief Financial Officer or her delegate to prepare a further report to Council at the conclusion of the community engagement period, inclusive of any submissions made, and requires the Chief Executive Officer to notify IPART of Council's intention to apply for a special rate variation by the 28th of November 2025 in line with the OLG guidelines. That's the recommendation. Council, all those in favour of that recommendation? That's Councillor Butler, Councillor McGrath, Councillor Jones and Councillor Rothwell. All those against? That's Councillor Cherry, Councillor Burgess, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Cameron. The motion is Councillor Carter. The motion is lost. We now come to the foreshadowed motion. If we can bring that forward, please. Yes, okay. Councillor Charity, you have the floor.
Madam Mayor, a lot of the comments have already been put forward. I guess whilst I was listening to the debate, I jotted down some comments and I tried to put some thoughts together and put something forward on my own assessment of what's being said in the room, especially by a lot of the comments by Councillor Flannery, Councillor Carter and Councillor Cameron. This is extremely hard and this is something that we all take very seriously. I note that I haven't had any input or comment from the CEO or the CFO. That sits very heavily with me as well because I haven't given them the opportunity to understand the impacts potentially of what this means. As the point raised by Councillor Butler, is this going to exponentially increase the risk of potentially a worse option down the track? I don't know, we don't have that answer right here, right now, but I'd love to hear any comments from the CEO, and obviously that February 2026 date, as already alluded to by Councillor Flannery, I'm more than happy to amend that, noting that I'm really putting a lot of pressure on the CEO to deliver here, and I'm very uncomfortable about that because I'd like to give her an opportunity to speak to it if she'd like to. Thank you, Madam.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if you're asking, do I think it will be higher? I think based on the consultant's modelling that we've seen and the fact that a 2-year SRV is higher than 40%, then yes, my answer would be yes. We would have to go, we'll have to, you said you can't crystal ball, but based on what is in the report, that's indicating to me that every year we defer it is going to be more. But time will tell.
If I may, Madam Mayor, through you, Ms Burley, specifically to the February 2026 ordinary meeting, is that enough time for your staff to be able to compile that information, noting all the comments that have been made, and I guess the requests for further information that have been presented today?
Move it into March.
March?
I'm happy to move it into March. I mean, you know, that's fine. I would have committed to February if that's what you were really hoping for. Yes, you know, from my perspective, we are doing and we've done a lot of that work. We provided council months ago with the financial sustainability roadmap. We had that endorsed that says this is what we will be doing, this is how we will achieve savings. So, yeah, it's a review of that financial sustainability roadmap that you adopted in August. Will be what we're doing, as well as, you know, we will think outside the box. We will enact the decision of council, that is our role, and we respect the decision that's made on the floor of council, and that's where we will move.
Do I have a speaker? I need to give the second of the row the opportunity to speak.
I'll try and be brief. Something I don't usually like to do. Look, I just think we're in a difficult situation. It's unfortunate that we've had to go down this path. I still think, from my point of view, what's happened with this extraordinary council meeting has brought to the attention of every member of the Yass Valley community that we may, at some stage, have to go down the path of a special rate variation. I know it's been mentioned in passing in the last 5 or 6 months, but I think people will now be saying, if we're going to go down that, why are we going down that path, and how can I put input into that particular situation? I know by delaying it by the best part of a year, which is what we're doing, is not satisfactory from the executive's point of view. But I think the community itself has to come to terms in a realistic way with what we're facing and what may need to be done in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Do we have any further speakers for the motion?
Madam, just a quick point of order, could we change to March, please? March 2026.
Councillor Flannery, are you speaking for or against?
For.
Okay,
You asked us for, so I was
Yes,
thinking for.
yes.
Thank you, Councillor Chari, for introducing this motion. I recognise all the work and that we have done a financial road roadmap. I just feel that it's a good move because it'll give us time to reflect and think about what we can do as council, as councillors, and also as community. And I recognise that it might be a delay of sorts, but it also gives us time to really think about what partnerships we can develop or what opportunities there are. So I try to look at it as a cup half full, recognising that we still have financial problems, we're not out of the woods, but we're going to give it a red hot chance, and I'd prefer strongly to be in a council that gives something a red hot chance to be better for the community, and to see how we can deliver those services for the money that we have.
Okay, councillors, do we have a speaker against? So I have a question for the mover and the seconder. Given our financial situation in terms of carrying the $2 million deficit, the backlog of $3 million each year in our roads, and the need to find $4.2 million worth of savings each year, do you have some ideas around that you're going to express today?
I kind of object to that question, sorry Madam Mayor, but I mean, it's not for the councillors to have the insights of the books. Like, I think what we're saying is to the council, to the staff and CEO, you come back, we already agreed on a financial roadmap. I know that I should, Councillor Cameron can definitely speak for himself, but I kind of object to being put on the spot.
Councillor Flannery, I would truly appreciate it if you would actually follow the meeting protocol. So I've asked a question.
Put it here next time.
I've asked a question of the mover and the seconder. The reason why I ask this is because when we put a motion, we have to identify how things are going to be funded. And if you look at the original recommendation of the SRB before you, it actually steps out where the funds are going to be, like where we're going to try and find them and what the special rate variation will be spent on. So I just wanted to get an idea, because there is a model there for a long-term 4 to 7 SRB, noting that historically they aren't supported. In fact, the Snowy Monero model had year 5 dropped off because I think, without saying it out loud, aren't actually supportive of those long, financial crystal balling into what a community might need. Snowy Monero had it for the first 4 years but not the 5th approved. So I just wanted to check in whether there was some further thoughts behind it.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Appreciate that question. I guess I don't have an answer for you. And I guess my response to that would be we are going to have to take it here clearly, and that is a very hard discussion following on from the debate that we've just had. And I'll be at front and centre of that. If I'm pushing this motion, then I've got to be able to take the flak as the consequences of it through a cause and effect lens. Obviously, if that's the effect, then if this is the cause, I don't have to answer further questions the community may have beyond me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Charlie. Okay, do we have any further speakers for the motion? Any further speakers against? Okay. Councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of the motion before you. That's Councillor Butler, Councillor Charry, Councillor Burgess, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Carter. The motion is passed, and for just the record, all those against, Councillor McGrath, Councillor Jones, Councillor Roswell. Thank you, councillors. Congratulations, Councillor Charry, on your successful motion. Councillors, this now concludes our business today, and the close of meeting time is 6:23. Thank you for our viewers.